Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love, a love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service.
Arise, O souls, all arise.
Good morning. That was impressive for early on a Sunday morning. I'm Richard Thompson, and I'm a member of All Souls. Whether you're here in the room or joining us online, we're glad that you're here. Your presence enriches all of us and our time together. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, so our tradition is a large tent with room for many beliefs and approaches to the questions that matter. It is our values of inclusion, compassion, and justice that hold us together. We seek to build the beloved community, making room for everyone and creating a world where everyone's needs are met. You may be new here this morning. Welcome. We know your first time attending a church, you may want to kind of keep a low profile and just check things out quietly. That's great. We're glad you're here. And if you're a visitor and excited to be here and to let all of us know that you are, we invite you to raise your hand at this time. It's not easy to do, but the standing ovation is nice. Thank you for enriching all of us with your presence today. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. Our candle of remembrance burns this morning for longtime member Annie Dietrich, who passed away on July 28th this past week at the age of 90. Delivering our sermon this morning is the Reverend Misha Sanders. She will be joining us via Zoom from Athens, Georgia. Reverend Sanders is a community chaplain in Metro Atlanta. Raised in the United Pentecostal tradition, Reverend Sanders is ordained with the Unitarian Universalist Association and a candidate for dual ordination with the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. Misha is a fiery preacher of the good news of radical inclusion and believes that the whole world is built and rebuilt by the stories we tell ourselves and each other. Anthony, will you help us learn a new song?
Hi. I'm going to slowly make my way to here so I don't fall down, but I can hold on to the piano. Because I tried falling down once and that didn't go very well. I want to thank y'all for being here this morning. We're going to learn a new song that we'll sing later in the service after we hear Reverend Misha's sermon. And it's a riff on a lyric from Leonard Cohen's Anthem. And it's a fun little call and response. And we're excited to have Shanna and Brian here this morning to help us do this. I'd like to say that Shanna will do the call part, so that's her part. So you're going to be with Brian and do the response part, which is the bottom line of the screen that you're looking at right now. So there's only one, right at the end, you get a little bit sassy and sing your own part. So it'll be fun. All right, so it goes like this. Here we go, 1, 2.
Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how.
Let's look at that last little part again. So that's your part. So she says, that's how the light gets in. And you go, that's how the light gets in. Here we go, 3, 4, 1.
That's how the light gets in. The light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
So we'll do this whole thing later in the service, but let's sing it one more time just for fun. So when you do the first 2 systems, and then we repeat the last line. So that's how it goes. And then we sing the whole thing again with that same repeat. Here we go, 3, 4.
Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
Yes, y'all are amazing. You sound so great. I want to say welcome to Reverend Misha, if she's here yet, and I want to welcome, so everybody say welcome. Yes, we're so excited. This is an amazing way that Reverend Aaron can, first of all, have some much needed time off and study time. And it's also a great way for us to hear really, really important messages from ministers around the country. So it's a fun way for us to enjoy our service together and enjoy different voices from around the country. So welcome, Reverend Misha.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, UUs of Kansas City. It is so good to be with you today. I am Reverend Aaron, and I go way back. Reverend Aaron grew up in the church that is my home church, the Unitarian Universalist in Rockford, Illinois. So it is so good to be sharing this pulpit today. It'd be great to be, if we were both there in person, so I'd give her a real hug. But here we are. I am in the RE office in Athens, Georgia. This is not my home church, but this is where I preached this morning. And so here I am now talking to you all. And I just wanted to send a hello from the UUs of Athens. They were excited that we get to do this today. Our opening words are from my friend and colleague, the Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is nothing you need to bring with you to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship. No eternal optimism or clarity of conviction. No boundless courage or endless expertise. You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem you're turning over and over and over in your mind. You do not need to know how the bills are going to be paid. Your checkbook can be a mess. Thank goodness. Your children may have been up half the night. Your hearing aids may not be working right. Your knees may be creaking. You do not need to be already perfect or even halfway. You belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us. Where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all. Where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Come, let us worship together.
Chalice lighting today is from the Oberlin UU Fellowship in Oberlin, Ohio. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also, to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share our time together. Please stand as you're able and join in the affirmation of our covenant. Our covenant. Do you guys want to talk about the covenant today? The affirmation of our covenant, and then remain standing as we join together in song. Is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our time for all ages today is a story called The Journey of the Birds. And for this story time, I'm going to invite you to stay in your chairs, and it might even help to close your eyes and imagine some of the images as I read. Now, this story was inspired by an ancient poem, and I'm talking over 1,000 years ago, The Conference of the Birds, by the Persian Sufi Muslim writer Fariduddin Attar. And it goes. Once upon a time, all the birds in the land decided they needed a leader. A leader, they thought, would make their community stronger. Representatives of all the birds gathered to discuss a leader. A leader will tell us the right things to do, said the robin. Our leader must be wise, said the owl. A leader must believe we each are important, big and small, said the sparrow. I want the leader to be caring like a friend, said the dove. Yes, the leader will help us share and get along better, said the jay. The leader must make us feel safe, said the hawk. I know where you can find such a leader, said the hoopoe bird. It is the Seymour, and it lives far from here. The birds were very excited. They said they were willing to go anywhere to find such a leader. It might be dangerous, said the hoopoe. A few birds looked troubled, but all the birds voted to go and find the Seymour. The hoopoe took off, and all the birds followed. They flew in sunshine. They flew at night. Days and days passed. Some birds got tired and left the group. Other birds were filled with doubt. How did they know the Seymour really existed? Only the hoopoe had ever heard of this bird. Some of the doubters dropped out, but others kept flying. One valley was filled with a fiery mountain. All the birds were afraid. I'm too small to make it over that mountain, lamented the sparrow. No, keep flying. We can make it together. We will help you. And they did. The strong flyers helped the weaker flyers. The birds with good vision helped find food for the group. Along the journey, the birds learned how to better respect, share, and care for each other. It seemed that every bird had something special and unique to offer that made this journey easier. Finally, the hoopoe announced, "We are here!" The other birds looked around in anticipation. "Where is the Seymour? We don't see it," they cried. "Come, it is over here," said the hoopoe. The birds stood beside the hoopoe and realized they were on the edge of a lake. They looked in and saw their own reflections. Then they understood. The Seymour was not another bird. The Seymour was all of them, and all of them were the Seymour. They remembered that each of them had something good and strong and special inside of them, and that each bird had gifts to bring to the community. They were all that was needed to keep the community going strong. They knew now that together they could do anything. And that is our story today. And now I would like to invite our children and youth to come downstairs with me for Sunday school. Would you sing us out?
Hi. Today's offering goes to the general operating budget, but I'd like to focus on service today. As we are called upon to serve our community, and we do this in a number of ways. When it's cold out, we invite homeless people to come in and use our facility as a shelter. There's free hot soup. There are our coming of age program. One of the things they teach and emphasize is service. Most of you know that I got a lot out of that program as well. All these programs and so many more are ways where we encourage or participate in service in our community. All these programs cost money. So today, when you're taking up the offering, I would encourage you to think about the services that we do as you use. Thank you. Please join me in the dedication of our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and change toward a just and compassionate society. Thank you for your generosity.
This reading is called The Writing on the Wall, Going Out Dancing Poems by Rick Maston. If we show them at all, most of us who write our secrets down and call it poetry prefer to slip it under the door and run. And if we must be present at the reading, disguise ourselves in sotto voices and pale monotone. But here was one who could take us into his personal life and show us around as if it were a house for sale, exposing everything the way it was, and never once rushing ahead to straighten up a room or kick the dirty linen under the bed. How could he do it? And why? It was such private property, and we were total strangers, just in off the street, looking, not necessarily there to buy. But then, toward the end, I realized that there was nothing in this place I hadn't seen before. And when I told him this at the door, he took me by the hand and thanked me for helping him feel so at home outside as we were leaving. I saw where some street philosopher had taken paint and tagged a classic on the wall. There are no strangers here, it read. I know myself, therefore I know you all.
Thank you for that reading. I love the poetry of Rick Maston. Our second reading today is a sacred text from the Gospel of John in Christian scripture. Chapter 4, verses, I don't know how many verses I have there to read. Beginning in verse 4. Jesus had to go through Samaria. He came to his town in Samaria called Sychar. It was near a piece of land Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. Jesus was tired from the journey, so he sat down by the well. It was about noon. A woman from Samaria came to get some water. Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew. I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" She said this because Jews don't have anything to do with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "You do not know what God's gift is, and you do not know who is asking you for a drink. If you did, you would have asked me. I would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you don't have anything to get water with. The well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Our father Jacob gave us this well. He drank from it himself. So did his sons and his livestock. Are you more important than he is?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but everyone who drinks the water that I give them will never be thirsty. In fact, the water I give them will become a spring of living water in them. It will flow up into eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty, and I won't have to keep coming here to get water." He told her, "Go, get your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you've had 5 husbands, and the man you live with now is not your husband. What you've just said is very true." Skipping to verse 27, just then Jesus' disciples returned. They were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want from her?" No one asked, "Why are you talking with her?" The woman left her water jar and went back into the town. She said to the people, "Come, See a man who told me everything I've ever done. Could this be the Messiah? Thus ends our reading. She came to the well by herself in the middle of the day when all the other women in town were busy doing other things. Not just today, but every day. Drawing water was a bit of a daily social activity for most of the women, and they came early in the morning or late in the afternoon and evening when the heat was a little more bearable. And so what is apparent through a historical anthropological lens, although unspoken in the story as it has been translated down to us, is that this particular woman designed her days on purpose to be here at lunchtime when she could be alone, when the sun was highest and the temperature was at its hottest. Now, I can't imagine it was because she liked the sweltering desert midday heat, as we certainly don't have to stretch our imaginations to think about on this beautiful summer day in the South, nor was it she didn't like the company of others. It was because they were not eager to be near her. She didn't have any friends among the women here, and that didn't seem likely to change anytime soon. But a lonely life didn't always mean she was alone like this. She wasn't. Chances are there were children, probably lots of children. And sometimes her man was around, but who knew how long that would last? Heaven knows she had been left enough times before to get used to the idea that it could happen again anytime. Although she knew from her own history that if it did happen, she wouldn't be good at being alone for very long. There would always be another man. Women didn't want anything to do with her, but there was never a shortage of men. I'm sure it hurt too much to think about how much they really cared about her or how much it was about what she could do for them. But being with someone, for whatever reason, seemed better than raising all these kids alone. Now, her name was lost to history, but a few centuries ago, our siblings in faith in the Eastern Orthodox Christian tradition got tired of calling her the woman at the well, so they began calling her Photine. Photine, as you heard in the reading earlier, was a Samaritan woman, not fully Jew, not fully Gentile. She was a woman of mixed race, accepted by neither. The Samaritans were a people ostracized and looked down upon, and Photine was a woman ostracized and looked down upon even among her own. Unwanted, a woman with a bad reputation, and no one wanted her immorality associated with them because they were already Samaritans and needed no more of a burden than that. So she was an outcast among outcasts. And people knew who she was. Jesus did, and he didn't even live in Samaria. One needn't be a member of the community necessarily to know about Photine. So Jesus, this then up-and-coming young rabbi, that had all the villages abuzz with word of his radical teachings, decided to take a quiet moment while his friends had gone away into the city to find some lunch, and he took a walk down to the well. Now, Photine apparently wasn't up on the latest news, probably because she was too often it, and she had learned to mind her own beeswax, so no doubt she approached the well that day with some discomfort, seeing a strange man nearby, having no idea who he was, knowing that the well side was not typical territory for the menfolk. She didn't know who this strange man was. She certainly didn't know that he had followers, was creating a buzz, fixing to go viral. But Jesus knew of her. And so he could have greeted her by letting her know who he was, but he didn't do that. He could have greeted her by letting her know that he knew who she was and what she was doing there at this strange hour, but he didn't do that either. What he said was, "I'm thirsty." That's it. That's the first thing Jesus did when he met this woman, was to acknowledge that he was vulnerable, had a need, and give her the opportunity to be of assistance. Now, Photine was a woman who maybe just a little bit had trust issues with men, because her response was something along the lines of, well, then I guess it's too bad for you that you didn't bring a water bottle. "I know," Jesus responded. "I was hoping that maybe you could help me by drawing for me from your container." So immediately, another moment of vulnerability from the rabbi. And maybe the beginning of a softening of the tough facade of Photine. Still suspicious, because she wasn't born yesterday, she asks him, "How is it that you, a Jew, would ask me, a Samaritan, for water?" And thus begins an exchange between neighbors in which Photine gives Jesus water, and he begins sharing his gospel of universal inclusion with her. He gives her metaphors and doesn't dumb one thing down for her in fear that she won't be able to understand. That when he speaks of the living water, he's talking about that which is eternal, in us all, for us all, flowing through us all. Jew, Gentile, Samaritan, male, female, non-binary, in-crowd, wallflower, pariah. He just drinks the water and has a conversation with another human being who is his equal. That's all. And Photine is startled. Jesus, it seems, senses that she doesn't get treated this way ever. And he has a moment of realization that this woman doesn't yet quite know what he wants from her. No man speaks to her without wanting something. It's usually not water. So Jesus speaks ever so tactfully to the awkward tension of the moment, to her unwanted vulnerability in his presence by saying, "Hey, I'd love to talk more with you. Why don't you go get your husband and come back? I'd love for all three of us to have a chat together." And then comes the first time that Photine gets voluntarily vulnerable out loud. She says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus says, "Okay, your boyfriend. Sis, I know you don't have a husband. I also know you've had 5 husbands and you're not married to the guy you're living with." He said this neither to shame her nor to impress her with some kind of clairvoyance, but I believe it was to say, yeah, I know, I said husband because I wanted to spare you the awkward moment, but it's all the same to me. I know who you are, and I know about your partner and your living situation, and I don't care. I don't care what everybody else thinks. I just see you. The woman who gave me water when I was thirsty. You met my need because you were here and you had a bucket. Well, I am here now, and I have a bottomless well of acceptance of you exactly the way you are right now, and I thought maybe you could use some of that. And so what Photine did next as we read earlier in the scripture, has always amused me greatly. She does not do what Jesus suggested and go find her partner and come back to continue the conversation, not right away anyway. She instead goes right into town and starts chatting up the women folk like she's a regular at the playground park benches with the other moms. Immediately, she just marches right up with a demand to speak to the manager of the whole Karen Brigade and says, so hey, there's this guy, Jesus. Maybe you've heard of him. No big deal, but I just came from having a drink with him. He invited my family to come back and hang out later. Yeah, we'll probably go. I don't know, kind of busy. She owned it. So let me just acknowledge that, like Jesus on that day, I don't normally say like Jesus on that day about myself, but I also know a little bit about to whom I am speaking. I know Reverend Aaron. I know a few of the reasons that she loves you all so much. I know that you are not novices in compassion and in deep listening to others who need you. You get it. I'm just here today to remind us, to nudge us into remembering a nuanced thing that even while doing the sacred work of justice, we can sometimes forget. We can forget that in offering compassion, an essential truth about those to whom we extend our hands and hearts and in service is this: we do not have any more to offer than they do. We are a part of an energy exchange between equals. And the benevolence that we bestow upon a needy soul is not merely a selfless gift to an unfortunate. It is simply an act of sharing what we have to offer with someone else who also has something to offer the world. And so I submit to us today that what Jesus did for Fotine at the well was a step beyond just compassion. It is a step beyond compassion when you offer unconditional help to me with an understanding that whether or not I ever offer to do anything for you, I am your equal. And you are just as likely to be the one with an outstretched hand receiving compassion from me in some way, now or in the future. So Jesus could have begun his social justice campaign with Fotine by saying, hi, you probably know that I'm a pretty famous rabbi, and I'm here to bestow upon you mercy and drop some spiritual knowledge. You sit on that side of the well, I'll stand over here and teach you stuff from a respectable distance because I know who you are. He could have. He could have done that. And that would have begun a very different exchange than beginning with, hi, my name is Jesus, and I'm thirsty. People who help people, we do that superiority thing sometimes, though, don't we? Not in words. We don't need words to convey about how we feel about each other. Our energy comes through. There's an old episode of the podcast and radio show many of you are probably familiar with in a UU setting, This American Life. And I think about this particular story often. It's a story about rats responding to the energy that we bring into the room. Now, I am a devout vegan, so I don't particularly like most lab rat stories. This one isn't too bad, fellow vegans, so hang with me. Only thing that gets hurt on these rats is maybe their feelings a little bit. So what happened was a group of very average lab rats were divided randomly into two groups. One group was given to researchers to put through a series of mazes, and the researchers were given the warning that those rats seemed to be extraordinarily dumb. Another group of researchers were given the other randomly selected rats to test in the same set of mazes, and they were, given the forewarning that those were unnaturally brilliant rats. I need more water, y'all. So, in measurable, observable tests, those deceptively labeled smart rats got through the mazes in record time. And the rats given the unfair label of doofuses apparently acted like they had about 3 collective brain cells and couldn't have found their way out of a holy paper bag, much less a complex maze, bless their hearts. Based on what? Y'all, based on what? Based on nothing but the seemingly non-communicatable biases of the humans who were doing nothing more than observing them. This blows my mind. I still can't wrap my brain around it. But the energy that we bring into a room makes a difference to the fellow beings we encounter, whether anyone in the interaction even knows it's happening or not. That's remarkable. And it makes me wonder, I wonder how much of my preconceived and wildly inaccurate notions about the kind of people who showed up in the domestic violence shelter, how many of those damn judgments in my head came through while I was doing the compassionate work of volunteering some childcare hours for their babies. And I wonder if the babies felt it too. And I wonder if the days when I walked through those doors only after a centering moment of remembering that we are equal for real, not just in rhetoric, and then listening more than I spoke, I wonder if that changed something about the energy of the house for the whole day. And I wonder if that's really as far-fetched as it may seem. I wonder, here's where we might need to buckle up, you-yous. Oh, I love us so much. I wonder if I am more comfortable serving an unhoused, mentally ill sex worker at the soup kitchen than I would be serving alongside her on the worship committee. And how hard would it be to recognize that in myself and then do the work of making the shift to something beyond and bigger than compassion. Compassion is a starting point. It's not a finish line. Because the work of justice is an energy exchange between equals. And let me just add something else about us as Unitarian Universalists right here, because Jesus did not travel to Samaria that day just to have a drink with 14. He went there to minister to an entire town of outcasts, misfits. They were their own little island of misfit toys. And Jesus wanted them to know that the gospel of radical inclusion wouldn't be radical if it didn't include them. So many people come into our beloved Unitarian Universalist faith, and I'm sure that this story is some of your stories, like it is mine. We come here often because we were cast out of our faith of origin. We're kind of like our own little island of misfit toys here. Heretics, outcasts, the kids who are bad influence in youth group. We came here because Unitarian Universalism told us that we could come here just as we are, bringing our quirks and our queerness and our questions right in the door with us, not hiding them, but dressing them up in fancy Sunday go-to-meeting clothes and sitting them right on the front pew, sometimes putting them right in the pulpit. That's what we were told. And then when we got here, we found that this place is just infested with humans who screw up a lot. And because the culture of white supremacy, straight supremacy, masculine supremacy, able-bodied supremacy, etc., is a hard set of neural pathways to rewire, sometimes we don't always know how to be the welcome that we received or should have received when we got here. But y'all, I can't afford to let myself get away with that crap anymore. I can't. I was a single mom at the end of a difficult relationship with no place to go, couch surfing in the homes of neighbors, family, and friends, when friends who believed that I was still their equal began to rally and help me find an apartment. And then they hauled their used furniture and household supplies themselves to help me set up a new life for my son and me. And I promise you, it did not take an extraordinarily intuitive nature on my part to know which of these generous, wonderful people got it about deep listening, about the energy exchange between equals. And it was many of those same people. Your Reverend Aaron's mom is one of them. It was many of those same people in my community of equals at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Rockford, Illinois, that loved me right into seminary. Because my beloved community had listened to me enough to believe that the broke single mom with a big mouth and a terrible job history, terrible relationship history, no car and bad credit was a woman with a call to ministry. How ridiculous is that? But they believed it, and here we are. Whatever happened to Jesus's friend 14 was either never documented or those documents didn't make it down to us through history. It's impossible to know. We'll never know her real name or what became of her life or the lives of her partners and children. But we know that her story still gets told over and over in different ways, extracting different meanings in beloved faith communities all over the world. People speak still of the woman at the well. Beloveds, we are equal in our glory and our misery. We listen to one another not because we are awesome, but because we are the same. What I submit to us today is not that we need to change what we do in our compassionate work in the world. Your church is already doing it. You help where you can, you find ways to help better, and then you do that. I know this. You may not always know that outsiders know it, but we don't. What I simply came to offer us today is the opportunity to explore the idea of a soul shift that moves us into a way of listening, a way of being that knows that the people to whom we extend our helping hands were already whole before we showed up. And what they need from us is for us to show up as our whole, vulnerable, thirsty selves and remind us together that we are one. So let us remember that some days the most compassionate thing we can do for another human in need of what we have to offer is to look them in the eyes and say, I'm thirsty. May it be so.
Please rise as you are able and join us in letting the light in with Leonard Cohen's lyrics, Forget Your Perfect Offering.
Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. Let's ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
That was fun to listen to. Thanks for indulging me in doing that song, Anthony and the Anthonyettes. I'm sorry if I didn't get your names. Our closing words are by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. I know sometimes you get cranky, and sometimes your tea gets cold before you can drink it. Sometimes the news is too much. The resistance seems too little. That's real. But we are here, imperfect and together and reaching. You can hold my hand if you want. I washed it with soap. It's okay. In this kind of time, now is better than later. Now I love you. Now I'm sorry it hurts. Now I witness your struggle and mine. Sometimes one answer is to be a yes in the face of every no. I am a yes for you, now and again, later if you need me.